So something I typically always enjoy when watching an anime and or reading a manga is that of a good revenge story. And 9 times out of 10, most of the series that even break my top 10 series of all time usually have to do something with being related to a revenge premise. I mean, take Attack on Titan, Monster, and even Code Geass for example, all being wonderful and amazing series that share one key factor for either a majority of the series or at best take up the entire series on the sole purpose of revenge. I don't know what it is about it, but just a mainstay on the conjecture on the whole idea of revenge is something that has always intrigued me, and with the series that's been one of my favorites since 2019, an anime and now a manga that I've read, you could definitely say made that year for anime a whole lot better. The series known as Vinland Saga is surely worth every inch of time you give into it, and I don't usually say that with a lot of series because with this one personally, I feel as if you pretty much get what you're looking for in a revenge story, at least for the first quarter of the series. And you know, coming from someone who is a big fan on the whole revenge premise, I think by taking out a majority of the nostalgia from older revenge series and trying my best to look at it from a well-written perspective, I think that Vinland Saga from just the first season alone takes just about as much as you need to know to basically be ready for the remorse of our main character Thorfinn's vengeful state of mind in the following season or the manga. And it's crazy to me that I haven't made a video on this series already because I know for a while now I've always been so heavily invested in a handful of characters from just the anime itself. And now with myself reading the physicals of the manga just as of recent, I think I've been long overdue for a video on Vinland Saga, but before we get into that, if you are new to the channel and or if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you hit that sub button and turn on the bell notifications, that way you never miss out on another new video. And also drop a like and a comment on today's video if you're ready to hear and see what I think about the series of Vinland Saga. So above all else, I think it'll be right to tell all of you that are watching this video what stuck out for me about Vinland Saga that just hooked me straight from the jump. Personally, if I'm being honest, this was a series that immediately grasped my attention because of just the world and premise alone. Pretty much anything to do with Vikings and the time period that this series takes place in is a huge plus for me right off the bat. But to be more specific, if we're talking about from the first season of the anime and not the manga, I'll get into the manga later on in the video, but what hooked me from the anime definitely had to be how well some of the character introductions were with absolutely no time to lose. I think you get the perfect amount of time and episodes needed with heavy introduction and dialogue throughout the first few episodes before things start ramping up. And I do think it takes a while for people, more so specifically a vast majority of the audience, to get attached to our main character Thorfinn, especially since within the anime alone it's rough to say, but it does feel like you forget that he's human at times. And with a revenge story like Vinland Saga, you have to remember that going into this series, of course you're supposed to have your own initial thoughts about some of the characters, but over time, and I think throughout the entirety of this series, you see a ton of things and script flips that just make sense with time and maturity. And that's why I think if you're someone who has already enjoyed the anime, I think it'd be in your best interest to check out the manga. But regardless of that, I can say if you're someone who's actually just hearing about the series for the first time, I think there's a little bit of everything when it comes to the characters of Vinland Saga. I could go on and on with the well put together cast of characters that truly make a difference post and prior to when people start picking up the manga. I mean, for example, you have an antagonist that some people definitely throw up into the conversation as some of the best of all time, Askeladd. You have of course a son and father, Thorfinn and Thors, and even an uncle that can take a whole army and come back with a few bloodstains from the likes of people he has killed, Thorkel. The list pretty much just goes on with characters you don't think to be nothing, but as the series progresses, you end up looking back on just how these changes happened. But to jump back though and talk about what this series has in store for a majority of the people interested, regardless of the great and amazing characters, this series goes through an amount of realism that is just indescribable at times, and the watching experience is a whole lot better in that sense because some things like the fights and action sequences are straight to the point. There isn't any time for talking and they're wasting it on strategizing midway through the fights usually, and that's what I love about it. While I do love some great talk no jutsu and some midway battle planning and inner dialogue, Vinland Saga takes the reality of things and says, hey man, if you miss one swing, you're better off dead, because that one mistake can cost you your life out here on the battlefield. But one thing I will say though, when off the battlefield, there tends to be this inner strategy team, usually behind the scenes with both parties that are at conflict, and it's pretty interesting to see how people of course viewed their pride over their own life, well, for the most part, and how the strategy and heavy dialogue takes place within the intermission portion because they know that time is crucial for their specific plan on the battlefield. It's honestly just brilliant, and I think it saved a ton of time to know when to really pay attention and when to just gauze your eyes out and enjoy the fights. Speaking about the fights though, whether you're an anime only watcher and or a manga reader of the series, I think it does a phenomenal job of displaying a well choreographed fight. And to me personally, when the movement is on point and the paneling is just flowing like water, that can honestly make the fight just a whole lot better to levels I can't even describe. And not only just that, but the artwork that is displayed is on levels with some of the best in manga. And if you like things like Kingdom and or even Berserk even, I think this series would fit right under your belt. But to get more into detail, I imagine that most people have already watched and or read this series, so moving forward, I do want to talk more specifically about what Vinland Saga is about and more so what it means to me as an avid enjoyer of this series. So I guess I can start with Thorfinn. Thorfinn at the beginning of the story was, for whatever the reason, a character I think I found to enjoy a lot more than the average watcher. I personally love how he fell into this dark pit of despair and was just empty to everything other than his main goal to kill and behead Askeladd for killing his father. And as for Askeladd, I generally didn't think you could write such a good antagonist to a level of some of the best of all time within just the short of time he spent within the series. Askeladd definitely was that character holding Thorfinn to the edge, and for so many years even, it was almost as if without him, Thorfinn had no purpose. And that pretty much was what it felt like moving into the Vinland Saga. As for the majority of the side characters that actually mean something relevant to the series, I think they hold a pretty decent standing as for how they are placed in the series. I think they tackle the elements and the intermission portions to an extreme, which is good because it gives time to build up on their own specific characters. However, jumping to some things in the manga, I think it's actually incredible to see what I liked from Thorfinn's character of this dark and delighted person to actually finding some kind of remorse throughout the Vinland Saga arc, and it's a complete script flip with how you viewed him in the first quarter of the series, so it's interesting to see his takes and viewing on things now, from pretty much being at rock bottom with nothing to lose to being someone with still nothing to lose but having all the encouragement and empathy to keep pushing forward as he grows and gains relations with friends and family along the way. You see how Thorfinn meets these characters and tries his best to stop this conflict before it occurs, because he does not want these other people to go down the trench of despair as he once did in his younger years. And to me, I think just dropping all that hatred and despise as he once had is a major sign of maturity, as we can obviously see that I don't think it's impossible for some characters in other series, because we've definitely seen it before with other characters such as like Guts and, you know, Rurouni Kenshin. It just really needs credit where credit is due, because man, it really shows not only the growth in Thorfinn but Yukimura sensei as well. And I think that stands out a ton when reading the series of Vinland Saga, because the growth and potential this series has for I think the anime only watchers is honestly extraordinary. And 9 times out of 10 you hardly ever see a top tier seinen series being adapted with the quality and production which studios is doing with Vinland Saga. So if you ask me, I definitely think that the manga is an amazing route, but if you're interested in waiting, I believe season 2 should be coming around the corner within the next year or so. I'm not entirely sure, but I can guarantee that when it does come back, everyone will remember and or now know the name Vinland Saga. As always everyone, to those of you who made it to the end of the video, I hope you all did enjoy the video. This has been a video I've just been kind of holding off for a while, but also something I just forgot about. I've also been reading a ton of the manga recently, so that's why I think if this video does well, I'll end up doing an updated manga video on all the recent events. But anyways, make sure before you click off the video to drop a comment on your thoughts on the video and let me know your overall thoughts about the series of Vinland Saga overall. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join the Discord if you have not already. We got the Discord up and running again, so join the Discord in the link in the description box down below. And with that everyone, my Twitter is @AnimeAugie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.